ressenti partout.
What's going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about news, current events, esoteric ideas, as well as our movie review. Tonight we'll be finishing up, basically Star Trek month, with the final movie in the Next Generation series, Star Trek Nemesis. As well as the movie review for this month, and this month's theme is Devil in the Details month. We'll be starting it off with Bedazzled from 2000, starring Brendan Fraser and Liz Hurley. So something to look forward to. Apologies for last week for not showing up. Extenuating circumstances. Rob's fault. But we'll. We won't hold it against him too much. Yeah. Yeah. But again, as always, co-piloting this thing with me is the homeboy Rob. Yeah. Good to see you too. As always. Not a whole lot, just work and my various volunteering. Work has been really slow. I don't know why. Yeah, that's not so good, but my friend tells me that this is. We did in the month of April. We did worse than last year. So in terms of sales, the service side, the service side is pretty steady, but in terms of sales, we're not doing the same numbers as we did last year. Maybe it's due to the erratic weather, but. We'll see. We'll see. Once the weather stabilizes a bit more, we'll see what comes of it.
Some point before it does pick up for you.
Yeah, I mean, to using a fishing analogy, I'm getting a lot of nibbles, but not a lot of bites.
A lot of bites. Okay. So there's fish out there.
There's fish out there. A few people come in. They kick tires, ask questions, that sort of thing. But no strong commitment.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Because
Well, hopefully with the coming.
I mean, again, because the weather's been so erratic, hasn't been the best. It hasn't been the best climate for people to come in and test ride bikes, with it being having it rain randomly every so often.
Hopefully, I think we're over the rain.
Yeah,
I think, but the weather's still been very weird and.
Yeah, I mean, at least for the more skittish customers, but because people who are intent on getting an e-bike, they're gonna come no matter what. I mean, I actually had a family come in just a few weeks ago, and what was it? The entire family came to test ride this bike for their for the grandpa, and what is it? Yeah, and then it happened kind of it was overcast, and then it started kind of sprinkling during the test ride. So there are people. So there are people out there. Yeah, but just to illustrate that, there are people who are those who are set in their mind to get a bike will come out regardless.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, it's just the nibblers and the tire kickers that are that get kind of, what's the word, emotionally draining. And I mean I do have experience in this, because one time when I was in school, there was an art show, like an art, what was it, festival, fair, uh, in downtown, and then my school had a booth, and so I volunteered to work it. And also in, what was it? It was also one of the classes. We made stuff to sell, and then I just remember at the end of it, it was so draining because like all these people that like came by to just look at things, but and then I would like try to engage with them, and I'd be expending all of this emotional energy that by the end, and like being and just like it was constantly being like turned down. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just looking, or it's like, oh, is it, and people are just like asking questions, and then it's like, oh, this is very nice, and just like walking away afterwards. It's like, you know it's very emotionally
Yeah.
draining.
I know how that is.
So I mean, so I have
Yeah.
experience in this.
Expending this energy,
Yeah.
like, and
I have experience in this, and it sucks. It really
yeah,
does suck. But I mean, because of my experience, like I know now, like
yeah. I don't know how my
I more or less have come up with a script. So it's like I answer all of like the four basic questions people ask, like how fast, how much, how far. What's the third one? How much, how fast, how far.
yeah,
Um, like, oh, like how much does it weigh? Yeah, pretty much like those are the four big questions that people like ask.
yeah.
And so like so I know like like
And after that, all they have to know is
exactly everything. I already told them everything that they need to know, and everything else is just like, okay, then like I know that they're interested, like they're interested enough beyond these four questions, and so like it won't be a waste to engage with them.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's kind of because those kind of test questions, that doesn't expend any energy, but it also helps you to gauge what their interest level is. Are they just looking? Are they not sure what they want? Or are they like a serious buyer? And you're like the serious buyer, they're gonna buy something regardless. The ones who are like they're not sure what they want, you're able to maybe like use that energy to engage them, and it's like, well, here's what we have to offer, and here's some of the things, and here and all that, and maybe at the end of the day, depending on how good you are, they end up becoming.
Right, and I mean, really, these bikes they sell themselves. I guess and particularly after a test ride, and so it's kind of kind of the policy of the shop that you get people to get on the bikes. You
Yeah,
know.
that's the first.
I'm sorry, what was that? You're kind of breaking up there.
Oh no, what I was saying is like you get them on the bike and you have them test it out and see what they think, and it's
Yeah,
gonna win
exactly.
people over.
Yeah, they sell themselves as soon as they get the customer on the bike, they sell themselves. So, hey, what about you, Rob?
Yeah, not a bunch exciting going on. Not too much happening over here. I did go to see the Phantom Menace for the 25th anniversary in
Oh, that's
theaters on
right.
Sunday, and Joyce, my wife, ended up really enjoying it too. So that was actually kind of interesting because now I think I got her interested in maybe watching Star Wars. So I was like, listen, there's a lot going on in this movie for people who know the story and they know what's what, which you don't yet. But if you enjoyed this, we'll go back and this movie will make much more sense to you, and I think you'll like it even
So, are you
more.
taking her through the chronological Star Wars?
I'm gonna go through thing with episode 4 and then
Okay,
going that
so
way and then
machete,
going back and
Machete
rewatching the
Order.
prequels. Yeah.
And for those of you unaware, the Machete Order is New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and then Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. That's kind of the best way to do it, I think. And then she, it's funny. She actually really likes Jar Jar
Really?
Binks,
Okay.
or at least she found him entertaining
I see.
as a character. So there are people out there who do like Jar
Right. I
Jar
mean, yeah. I
Binks.
mean, what was it? George Lucas said that Jar Jar was his favorite character.
Yeah, well, the she was like, I think a lot like Jar Jar Binks. I was like, she just busted up laughing because I think there is some truth to that.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Let's just say that I don't disagree.
Yeah, but it was kind of fun. It was fun going out to see it in theaters again after 25 years, and I really enjoyed the experience.
Was that Duel of the Fates? Was that the Duel of the Fates fight as awesome, like on big screen as you remember it?
Yes, it's still that fight is still that will always be awesome. Even like when I'm watching it at
Right.
home on
Yeah, but
TV, I'm just like, oh man, this fight is so freaking
yeah, but I
good.
mean again, but just to see it again on on the big
But
screen,
seeing it back in theater, it's just like, yeah. The reason I was able to really get her to watch it though is because she's a big Liam Neeson fan. So it's like, hey, one of the main characters is Liam Neeson, and he's really
She
good in
cried
this.
when he died.
She's like, okay, I guess I'll watch it. She was like, oh no. She was like, I like him,
I know. That's why I asked. I
but
could see your wife
it's
crying
necessary.
at his death.
I don't think she cried, but she was just more of like she had more of like, oh no, it's like this is the character that
Right.
I liked, and he's dying. And it's like, is he really dead? It's like,
Mm.
yeah, he's gonna die. It's kind of fun, like watching this stuff in people who have never done it and they enjoy it, and you get to re-experience that newness with them. I think that's always a lot of
For sure.
fun. But yeah, that was that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all. As far as exciting stuff goes, I've just been mainly doing a lot of work. That's about it. I'm taking some vacation time this month, so I'm excited for a long weekend. Kind of, I'm taking a few days off.
Cool. Cool. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, should we?
Let's get into the.
Did you want
We'll do
to
this. Yeah. We'll do the
sandwich this
sandwich.
thing?
As is our custom. Yeah. Just so we can get the previous month's movie out of the way. So yeah, let's get into the first movie review. Huh?
Include the month. Say, well, out with the old business, now we'll get into the new business.
All right. Let me just hit everyone with the synopsis for Star Trek Nemesis, and then we'll get going. Yeah, this again, Star Trek Nemesis from 2002. Of course, starring Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes, Marina Sirtis, Brent Spiner, Tom Hardy, by the way too, and Ron Perlman.
Yeah, that was a huge surprise for me.
All right. Here's the synopsis. Captain Jean-Luc Picard diverts the Starship Enterprise from a scheduled trip to Commander Riker and Counselor Troy's wedding to negotiate a peace treaty with the Romulans. Picard is shocked when Shinzon, the new praetor of the Romulans, admits to being a clone of him. When the crew members discover a break-in on their computer, they are forced into a life or death battle to stop Shinzon's warbird before it can destroy the Earth. Star Trek Nemesis. This is your first time watching Nemesis, yeah?
That is correct. Yeah. This previously before,
Yeah.
or
No, no, no.
was
I've
this
seen
your
I've seen
first
it
time?
before. I know. Yeah,
You've
yeah.
seen this one before.
Well,
Okay. Yeah.
and I
It's
know in terms of the fandom, it's Nemesis was not received very well.
yeah,
Financially
financially did
didn't
not
do
do
too
very well
well.
either, and it is the last movie. Yeah, it was the
Hmm.
last film too, I
Yeah, for the
believe,
next
for the
generation cast. Yeah.
it started the SNG crew. But I don't know, man. I thought it was pretty. Having Tom Hardy in there was pretty. Kind of seeing him in a younger
Yeah,
role
yeah,
of his,
the younger Picard. Yeah.
pretty cool. Yeah, I think just the I think maybe what was weird about it is having, and I don't know if this plays into like a particular episode of the series, but him having a Picard having a
Hmm.
clone, essentially, that his essentially his like evil
Right.
twin, if you will, that maybe wasn't complete. His like the clone wasn't complete, and he needed Picard to complete himself,
Right.
essentially. Otherwise, he would
Well,
die.
yeah. Well, because
That was maybe a weird, just because you're not really sure what to do with that,
right. Well, that's a good that
because it kind of comes out of nowhere in a sense.
right because yeah, this definitely feels like the plot, the conclusion to an resolved plot from like the TV show, but there was never any such moment where I mean, yes, the Romulans were or started to come back into the Star Trek universe towards like the third or fourth season of TNG, where they started kind of being like the antagonist of the week.
Mm,
But there was never a moment where there's never a scene where there's a Romulan commander with like a vial of blood and it's like, oh yes, we have plans, that sort of thing. Uh, to kind of set up this movie.
yeah,
But if there
yeah,
was that, then I think this movie would have done a lot better because things happen during the making of a TV show, and sometimes certain plot lines don't get like their full resolution, and so a movie might be a good way to tie up that loose
right,
end.
right.
But in the case of Nemesis, there was no such preface, as it were, to what would essentially be an epilogue.
Would have been a good storyline to deal with in this last movie is finish up the story of Q.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the series finale does like a pretty good job with that, actually. Um, I don't know how far you.
Do you think it does? Well, it's been a long time since I've seen. It's been a while since I've seen the finale. Like I said, I was trying to go
Uh-huh,
through the series. I haven't been able to finish it yet, but that's because I always felt like the Q storyline in
uh-huh.
Next Gen never felt very complete to me. It's such a cool
Right.
character, and usually when you're taking from the show that was very popular, like we first contact with the
Hmm.
Berg, and then you kind of elevate that to the movie level. That was a very cool movie,
Well, I
and
mean,
when you can do that from take a storyline from the show that everyone likes and on it, or like continue it, I think it's always really cool too.
well, I don't think Q would necessarily translate well to movies, only in that with the movies you're also trying to appeal to a general audience, and not necessarily Trek fandom. So like
Mm,
people might watch this and be like, well, while you could watch well, you could watch First Contact and understand, yeah, Borgs were the big bad guy in Star Trek, and a general, and like, they became, the Borg was such a big deal that it actually kind of bled out into the mainstream a little bit, and people understood what the Borg was, or had a general idea of what the Borg
Is
was.
you
So
think
so the general movie
true?
going audience could go to Star Trek First Contact and understand what, like, the purpose of the Borg. Whereas Q was more was is a
Okay.
deeper cut. It's a deeper cut, and you would really have to have watched the entire series to get the reference of Q and understand the adversarial nature between him and Picard, and the Enterprise crew generally. So yeah, I think, but they do a satisfactory job of resolving Q as a character within the season finale or series finale of Next Generation. I think.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna get there again here fairly soon. Like I'm gonna, and then I might have we might have a talk about how I think about it again, because I don't think we've actually like done kind of like we've circled around it on some things, but maybe we'll do like an episode just kind of talking about Next Generation and like the things we like or didn't like about it.
But
yeah,
in terms of kind of a
when it comes
buttoning
like
up the Next Generation, I think this movie is serviceable. I mean, it gives a nice kind of happy ending for Commander Riker, who then gets promoted and gets a command of his own. And then also it ties up,
and
and
he
he
finally
finally
marries
marries
Deanna.
Deanna. And they are able to go off.
Thank God. It was about when when I saw that, I was like, it's about fucking time.
Right. Right. Especially yeah, they
no,
they
it
did
was
dance
really
around it a lot in the series, but then like in the movie they brought it back a lot to where, like, if they didn't get married in this last one, it would have been like, what the fuck.
that would have been
Yeah.
a travesty. It's like, come on, like you're not gonna let these two get married. They love each other, for God's sakes.
Right.
Just
I
let
mean,
them
in the
get
movie,
married.
and in the movies particularly, like it definitely escalated. I mean, not so much in Generations, but then in First Contact, yeah. Um, yeah, like, there's a scene in the bar.
So one
And
other question
yeah,
I had too.
wait, repeat that.
One other question I had too about this film was Geordie LaForge. He has
Oh,
the new eyes. He's not using the visor.
well, he switched them out. They switched
Was
those out.
that something that I
They
don't?
switched those out in First Contact. So
Was that where
after
that happened?
Generations, into First Contact, they switched out the visor for the prosthetic eyes.
Is that like, man? How did I forget that? Like, 'cause I was wondering, like, wait, where did
Right.
his new eyes come from? I
Yeah.
was like, man, how did I miss? Maybe I was so excited about everything else, like
Yeah. You
I missed
glassed
that
over it.
part.
But yeah, I think after basically in Generations, where his visor got hacked, I think he went in for the upgrade, so that certain scenario can never happen again.
Uh, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, now
Mm-hmm.
it's coming back to me. Okay, but yeah, no, it's I think the story though line that we get though, albeit like you're wondering how it got there, is still a pretty good one. I think Tom Hardy as his character is a pretty good villain, because his only goal is to become complete, and he needs his essentially his what do you call him? I mean, he's the clone, but like his original's blood,
Yeah, the source
and
the source the source blood.
he's using the Romulans, the source blood. you. Yeah, and he's using the Romulans and anything he can do to make that happen. And essentially, his like commander essentially is that because he was thrown into some sort of like slave mine or whatever, and finally was able to escape. And that's where he's essentially seeking revenge on the people who essentially put him there, and to complete that whole mission, he needs the source of the card, and doesn't have the same. He's not as fleshed out as a person like Picard is. Picard, yes, does he have the anger? Certainly, but he's able to kind of balance that out with his intelligence and his calm demeanor and the love and care he has for his crew. Whereas Tom Hardy's character does not have any of those things. All he knows is revenge and anger, and that's his whole goal.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I love the metaphor or imagery that that he gives to describe himself. Where he says he's like, oh, you're the voice and I'm the echo. And he
Yeah,
and
that's a great way to put it.
So he feels that his life doesn't have meaning as long as Picard is still around. Which is kind of absurd, because it's your life is what you make of it. It doesn't matter. In a lot of way, it's very much like I'm angry at my dad because my dad is so much more well known than me, and I have to do all this. I have to do something even grander to escape from his shadow, sort of thing. It's very like I'm mad at my father sort of energy.
Right.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Dad. No, because he's like his so Shizon, which is Tom Hardy's character, he is Reman. He's not Romulan, but he's utilizing.
Well,
the
he's a human that identifies as a Reman.
Romulus and Remus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Because he's human. Because
the Remans they're strange looking people.
DNA wise, he's human, but he was just raised with Remans, so he identifies with the Remans. And so.
Right. I kind of the idea the Romulans and the Remans. That's kind of I like that
right.
play off of creating a couple of different races off of Romulus and Remus.
Yeah, they're not the same. They're not the same
Roman
species.
Empire. Yeah, that's kind of odd. Like you think it's like it would be like with like Jews and Arabs, like they come from the same descending line essentially, but like obviously they're very different. But it's
I actually think that's what the Vulcans and the Romulans are supposed to be.
Oh, is that what it is?
That's what it seems to me, because, well, I mean, particularly with Leonard Nimoy, who what is it? In interviews, he's talked about how much of Judaism he's put into his portrayal of Spock, which then became kind of okay, this is just how Vulcans do. Even the Vulcan salute is some hand gesture that they do in
Judaism. I didn't know that.
So if you want to think about it, if you want to think about the archetypal symbols of the different races, obviously the Federation is the United States, and the Klingons were the Russians or the Soviets, during the 60s, and then you have the Vulcans, who are very spiritual people in their own kind of way, and then they generally adopted pacifism, and then you had the the more warlike, domineering Romulans, but they're the same species. They just diverted. So kind of with Ishmael and
Oh,
Isaac.
okay.
Isaac going on to finding Israel, and
Yeah,
Ishmael,
yeah.
going on to purportedly going on to founding Islam. They're kind of they're two.
Trade the
Yeah,
other
they're
nations.
brother
Yeah,
nations.
yeah. Oh, okay. That's interesting. I thought like yeah, I was thinking because just with like the play on the names, it was the idea of Romulus and Remus
Right. Well, yeah.
of Roman
Well, I
Empire,
mean, they are kind of like a
but
stand-in or analogous to the Roman Empire, because they have the Romulan Senate, the Roman Senate. Um,
right.
the title of Praetor, Praetorian. Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
there are some connections there, um, but the Romulans were more of a conquering race, and so like the Romulus, their home planet, I think it was just they conquered that world, and then they went out and created the Romulan Star Empire, and yeah, so the Remans I don't think have a genetic connection to the Romulans,
Okay. All right.
but yeah, it's just
Uh, s- what were some things that what are things that you liked about this movie? Because you introduced it, so what are things that you
um,
gravitated towards in watching this?
yeah, I mean I really like the kind of completionist, the like how like it completes a lot of things. It ties up a lot of things, and what is it? I think one of the things that gets overlooked is, I mean, true, it's at the cost of his life, but I think Data's kind of evolution into another part of humanity, and that's self-sacrifice. Um,
Yeah.
because I know people, like, I know, like, the fandom, like, they don't particularly have high praise for this movie, but I like I enjoyed it. Even way back when it first came out, and I watched it, I was like, yeah, it's like, and I was a young man at the time, and I didn't wasn't too I wasn't too invested in, like, the symbolism, or the meta narrative underneath, or whatever like that. I just I watched it, and being somewhat of a Star Trek fan as a young man, I think my Star Trek fan I guess fanaticism didn't come until much later in my adult life. But even back then, in my kind of like casual, enjoyment of Star Trek, the Next Generation, I enjoyed this movie for what it was.
It's funny. I didn't get into Star Trek until probably like when the first Abrams one came out, and then that kind of like sparked my interest. Like, I've never seen the original series or like Next Generation or any of that, and everyone's telling me like, "Oh, dude, you would really like
Mhm.
this," and that's when I really started to get into Star Trek. I watched the original series, and then I actually thought the only movie that they made was Wrath of Khan,
Mhm.
and I was surprised to find out, I was like, no, there's 6 films. I'm like, what? So I watched the film,
Mhm.
and then I started watching Next Generation. I found out Next Generation has films, and I had not. This is my first time getting to the Next Generation films, although we didn't cover them
No,
all. But
I mean, we
um,
covered most of them though.
knowing what I do know about the character, there's 4 of them, right? I think
Yeah, the only one
we
thing we
only
didn't do
missed
was
one.
Insurrection.
Yeah, now I'm probably gonna watch that at some point just because so I can say that I've watched it.
Mhm.
But I like the idea that this is a nice send off for all the characters that we like. Although it sucks that Data is gone, but at the same time, he he becomes human at the end,
Mhm.
once he learns like what it means to like he's not doing cold calculated robotic
Right. He's
things.
not. Yeah.
He is
He's not just
now
doing
become
like. He's not a difference. He's not a difference engine where it's like okay, like in weighing like just the numbers, like oh, the statistical probability of me, saving the captain and da 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 da. No, he's just like I gotta save Picard because he's my friend, as opposed to
yeah. There was no thought about like anything. It was he. The thing is, he was working on instinct, not thought, like not a calculated algorithm in his head. So that was a great way to send off his character. He becomes a human, and obviously that, although at the cost of his life, pretty cool stuff. Riker and Deanna get married. Really like that. I don't think Wesley is in any of these films. I really like that.
No, it's a blink and you'll miss it cameo. He's at the wedding.
In okay, yes, you're right. Well, he didn't have any speaking lines as far as I know,
No, he
so
didn't. It was
I like that.
Like again, it was a blink and you missed a
Shut
cameo.
up, Wesley.
It was a blink and you missed cameo.
Good enough for me, because I certainly missed it. In my head canon, Wesley's not there, and I'm pretty sure most fans are happy that Wesley's not there.
Yeah, although he was wearing a Starfleet dress uniform, so he's even despite his exit from the show, he ostensibly leaves Starfleet. I guess somewhere between the end of the series and the beginning of the movies, he comes back into Starfleet.
Maybe it could have been what they did with what Kirk did with Bones, with what was Generations, or was it First Contact, like where the Star Trek the motion picture where he's like, Bones, I need you. It was like he was on an island somewhere just enjoying himself and like
wearing a very 70s like what was it like leisure suit with like a huge like medallion.
Oh yeah, his like leisure suit thing. That was so fun. His like island leisure suit with like his puka shells that he was wearing. Oh, it was, and with the beard too. That was freaking cool seeing him with the beard. Maybe it was something like that where like Wesley's now back with Starfleet or something and off on his adventures elsewhere. But
what is it? I don't. You've gone through the entire Next Generation series before, right?
Yeah,
so
I have.
Yeah, because there was like in the earlier seasons there was that Wonderkin storyline where Wes is supposed to have like this huge potential and Picard is supposed to nurture it through through that weird alien guy, the Traveler guy. And then like they don't do anything with it until like the fifth or sixth season where Wesley like he becomes disillusioned with the Starfleet organization, and then he kind of like pisses off with the Traveler alien again, and that's his exit from the show.
Hey, just like he doesn't realize it. I don't think that guy has stopped crying about everything.
Know, right? But from
that guy
from that moment to Nemesis, like he must have come back, to Starfleet and continued on with his career or whatever bullshit.
Yeah, but Will Wheaton, not my favorite guy, and definitely no. I don't. Is there anyone in Next Generation fandom that likes Wesley?
I mean, not anyone that I follow.
And now, signing autographs, we have Wesley Crusher, Mr. Will Wheaton. Boo! It's like, hey guys, I was in Star Trek too.
You suck. But
see, the thing, like, what was it with Galaxy Quest? The young, at the time of the show, it was like a young kid. Yeah, Laredo. He was cool. I mean, if that was
Yeah, because he was
if Will
actually
Wheaton was more like that
yeah,
guy,
because he was actually a part of the crew, and he was like a boy genius. You know, and I mean Wesley
yeah,
was supposed to be a boy genius too, but he's just like this annoying kid that got in the way constantly.
always in the way. Shut up,
Shut
Wesley. I think that was Patrick Stewart actually telling Will
up. I know,
Wheaton to shut the hell up.
right?
That's like,
It's like that probably wasn't even a take. It was just like him like off on the side, like shut up.
yeah. Well, use
Like
it.
use it, Patrick.
Just use Wesley
Yeah,
instead of
use it,
Will.
Patrick. Use it.
Yeah, use the anger.
Um,
Feed into
but
it.
yeah, this I mean, this does definitely feel like an unresolved storyline from the series, but I enjoyed it. It's like it's one of the main antagonists or villains of the show that we never really got to engage with, in particularly in the Next Generation. But like finally being able to go to Romulus and being in like the Romulan Senate, and a little bit of a political thriller as well with like
Yeah, that was
with the
pretty cool.
assassination of the entire Romulan Senate.
That was
Yeah.
wild, dude. I was okay. This is cool, and yeah, you see, you're getting something that we didn't get in the series, so that's cool. It's a nice send off for all the characters. I really like that. Um, and to be honest, like as far as the villain goes, he's cool. He's pretty cool. I think Tom Hardy does a really good job. Um, with the role he had. Just more. I think it's just more like I think the premise that was a little bit lacking because you kind of it feels like it comes out of nowhere. But if you can overcome that, I think the movie's pretty damn good. It's got a lot of really good Star Trek ish type action. So and yeah, I mean anytime I can watch these characters do their thing, I really enjoy that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I kind it does make you wonder, like, when did the Romulans cook up this idea to replace Picard with a clone? Um,
That's something I was like, man, that it almost seems like it'd be something that would be something that they were trying in an episode of the show, and now we're seeing like, and we never. It's like, wait, did we win? And you're not really sure, and then it gets resolved in this movie. Like it's like kind of this last film that we're doing. Let's resolve this last string of storyline that we kind of missed out on. I think that would make this movie have a lot more impact.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
Because I think like eventually like what it would be is that you have this guy essentially become Picard, and you use him as an infiltrator into Starfleet and essentially maybe destroy from
Right, like
within,
he could be, yeah, he could just be a spec,
which
and
would
yeah,
be
especially
kind of a cool storyline to
being
deal
a
with.
senior officer, a flag officer at that, um, or potentially, because Picard was already a captain, and he was the captain of the flagship. He would eventually been promoted to admiral and become a
Yeah,
flag officer, and then he would probably run Starfleet at some point. Um, I think there was a
and
version,
like that's
right?
what they're trying to prevent.
What is it? I think there was a version of this that happened, but not I don't but not the Romulans didn't execute. There's like, I don't know if you're familiar, but there was that episode where Picard gets switched out with a doppelganger, and the real Picard is put in like this kind of test thing where he's with like different aliens, and like the aliens wanted to see how humans behaved or something, but like the Picard doppelganger was like raising all sorts of hell, very acting very out of character.
I do remember that. Okay, now that you're talking, I do remember this episode. Yeah, That was a
Yeah,
great episode.
I forget what it was called, but yeah, he was trapped in a room with a bunch of different aliens, and like it was to see if humans, basically put under stress, how would humans react, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it was like these really like uppity, like egotistical aliens thinking like oh, like we're so much better than humans and yada yada yada. But anyways, Nemesis. Is there anything that you like? I mean, other than what you, is there anything else that like you didn't particular like that something just felt off about this movie for you?
No, there's nothing that like outside of just like I said. That's the only thing that negative I have about the film, and why I don't think it's as good as the other ones that
Mm-hmm.
we watched. So that's my only knock on it. But I still think what we do get is really solid. It's it's if I was giving it a rating, I would say this is probably a 3 out of 5 for me, just because I think it's one I'll definitely come back to. But I just yeah, I haven't seen Insurrection, so I don't maybe I'll like that
Mm-hmm.
one less than this. But you know, after watching first coming out of Contact and watching this, I was like, yeah, this one's not as good.
All right. Well, if we're giving ratings, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. This is a three. I still enjoyed it, but yeah, it's just not as solid of a flick as like my preferred Star Trek movie, Undiscovered Country, and then that the masterpiece.
Oh, that movie,
Yeah,
yeah,
and
that movie's so good.
or not even as good as First Contact. So it definitely bucks the it.
As of right now, First Contact's the best next gen film for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it definitely does buck the trend of the even numbered Star Trek movies being the best ones.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, but I would say it's not horrible. It's a just not great, not
Mm-hmm.
but not bad.
Yeah, and I mean, and what is it? I don't know how I feel about them. Like they're kind of like the Chekhov's gun of of Data transferring his memory engrams to B4, and at the end, like him kind of like recollecting memories
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Data. Like I don't know how I feel about that. It's just like I think in a way I think it takes away from Data's death. It's like, oh, here's this another android that looks exactly like Data with all of his
yes,
memories. Like I wonder what I wonder what's gonna happen.
yeah, yep, exactly. It's like, of course, that's gonna be like a way for them to infiltrate. I
Yeah.
forgot about that part of the movie. It's like I don't because I was like, for me, I was like, come on, how do you not see what's gonna go on, guys?
Right.
You're
I
smarter than
mean,
this.
it's not a, well. Thanks to
How
Picard.
long will
Thanks
I
to
sleep?
I mean I don't know if you want to say thanks, but thanks to Picard, we know that doesn't happen because of the first season of Picard. It totally just does away with the hope of Data coming back in B4's body.
That's such a missed opportunity. Like what? I mean, as much as I don't like that part of
Nemesis. Mhm.
Nemesis, that's come. How do you not
Right, and I
use
mean,
that?
yeah, I mean,
You're
especially
continuing the
right,
story
and
of the
then
next generation.
because then like in the third season we get this uh clunky way we get Data back, but in this very kind of clunky way, and just like it's like, oh, okay, you could have just brought him back in the first season, but now we have like this weird
Right, that's what I'm
clunky.
saying. It's like, well, and maybe part of it is like maybe they could.
I'm sorry.
I almost wonder if like maybe the reason he's not in the first season, maybe they
Oh
couldn't
no
get
no no
Brent
no
Spiner
he
to reprise the role yet or whatever,
No, I mean
so they didn't
technically
have him
he
there.
does because there's like flashbacks. I mean, wait, did you see the first season? Oh,
No, I
okay.
haven't seen
Oh
any of
yeah,
Picard.
I do say this isn't a glowing endorsement, but the third season is the best, and you don't need to watch any of the previous seasons to enjoy it.
Okay, cool. I heard that first season is
Yeah,
really rough.
but
Like it's like
yeah,
woof,
but in the
rough.
first season, yes, Brent Spiner does come back because there's Picard has like these dreams or whatever about Data, and then also there's another long lost Soong descendant or brother, like physical, like actual, like human being. And which, because if you know in the series, Brent Spiner plays Data, his brother Lore, and the actual Doctor Noonien Soong, the creator of the androids. And
What what is it? Alien 3? Is that
huh?
where I got it from? Because it is in Alien. Have
No,
you ever
I
seen
haven't.
Alien 3? Okay, you'll see what, yeah, when we cover it here, you'll see what they're talking about, because they do similar in that movie too. Where,
Well,
it kind of like we meet like other one of the
yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean,
it's
just really quick
oh my gosh.
history. Data and his brother Lore and B4 were built by Dr. Noonien Soong, and he created the three androids after his
Yeah,
own likeness. And so that's how you get Brent Spiner to be able to play
yeah, okay.
the creator. But then Noonien Soong, yeah, multiple characters.
Multiple characters.
But in the first season of Picard, there's kind of like this artificial life sanctuary that was built by long lost Noonien Soong, one of Noonien Soong's sons. Who
Okay,
again looks remarkably like his father. So Brent Spiner gets to play actual human being, without the makeup, and so
that's
yeah.
oh man, that's
But
interesting.
so yeah,
But
so it
yeah,
wasn't a matter.
it
It
just
wasn't a
feels like a lost
matter. So it
opportunity
wasn't
to
a
bring
matter
Data back.
of not being able to get Brent Spiner, but that whole first season of Picard is fucked.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
just
it's
bad
just
writing.
bad writing, and like that first whole season is fucked.
It's bad writing with people who don't know Star Trek, or like probably
Yeah.
don't give
Oh my
a shit
god.
about
The,
like
the, the most
what
egregious.
they're
This is the
doing,
most okay.
and that's
The
why
most
it was
egregious
popular.
thing about Star Trek Picard, the first season, and I mean, there's the entire season is horrendous things, but the most egregious of the most horrendous things about that season was there's a scene where they're fixing the ship, and they basically used magic to fix it, because there was if you ever watched Star Trek, they're always fixing things with tools, and they're saying, oh, you have to bypass the isodyne relays and the EPS manifold and blah blah blah.
She
I
can't
know, but
take
there's
no
like
more,
there's
Captain.
techno babble in when they're fixing things, right? In the first season of Picard, the ship is broken, and then there's like this device, and like basically a magic wand, and he says, "Oh, just you just have to imagine fixing it, and it'll fix it for you." Right? And so you close your eyes, and all of a sudden, like these little like tendrils come out, and then they magically fix the ship. I know. I was like,
What
I
the
was
fuck?
literally retching
That is
at that scene. I was like, what the is this?
this is a series. Star Trek as a whole has been a series that has pushed forward scientific innovation, because
Technology specifically.
people see things on the show that do not exist, and it's like, how can we make that a reality? And it fucking has happened. Think of how many things that Star Trek has shown us, and now we have it. one of the things that we're doing right now, this was a Star Trek idea, communicating over
Right?
like
Yeah.
cameras and having like a live camera feed. This is a Star Trek thing going on right now. We didn't wave a fucking magic wand and imagine it to happen. Like, what the? That's bullshit, dude.
I know. Oh my god! When that happened, I was like,
smoking?
Why? I was like, how is this? How was this allowed to be put in a Star Trek series? It's total. It's like, okay, again, to preface, the entire first season of Picard was dog shit. All right, but in an entire season of dog shit, that was the most egregious.
Were these like fans of Harry Potter? It's like, let's throw some Harry Potter in
who
here.
don't even know this what they're writing for. I swear. Like, I mean, I don't know if you've like seen like
That's
yeah,
like
pretty much
Expelliarmus.
like it's like reparo fasto, basically.
Yeah. That's stupid. That would have infuriated me watching that. Oh, thank you for saving me, Andy.
I watched it so you didn't have to. I didn't watch. I refused to watch the second season. But you know, I was hearing such good things about the third season. I bit and I watched, and yes, it is better. And as much as I think that the original series finale, you know, was a good way to cap off, you know, those characters. Picard, Star Trek Picard season 3. It still does right by them.
Cool. So, yeah, all right.
The good thing is you don't have to watch the previous 2 seasons.
Even better, because Reparo
Fasto,
magic wand waving to repair the Enterprise.
Yeah, I swear to God, that's what it was. That's what it was. It's basically Reparo Fasto.
You can chuck that shit fucking garbage.
All right, folks, that's our review for Star Trek Nemesis. Both Rob and I give this a 3. Still a really fun movie. I think I would say that you would need to be a little bit more of a Star Trek fan to enjoy this one, but even for a casual viewer, I would say it's fine.
I would say a casual viewer would probably give this one, I think, a lesser rating. Like, if you're not familiar with Star Trek, this is maybe not as good. But First Contact is just good film. You know, it's not just like, it's not just like a because you kind of get an idea of like who the characters are.
You understand. You understand.
You kind of understand.
And you understand like how evil the Borg are. Like, even if you're not a Trekkie or a Trekker, you know through the like slow like crossing over into popular culture, the idea of the Borg is universal. People, it's immediately understandable, and so there's no need for
exactly. And all it is that being a Star Trek Next Gen fan, it's just icing on top of the cake. It's
for Nemesis,
there is no like
I mean, particularly for the payoffs for the characters. Like, you being a little bit more of a Star Trek fan does make you appreciate the movie
more. All right. I could talk about Star Trek for hours. I really do love Star Trek. I never knew I was going to be a Star Trek fan. And I came to it so late. It's not like I grew. It was always on like syndication and stuff when I was a kid, but I just never watched it. And now that I've gotten older, and maybe because I have more access to it, but I was just like, because I do love sci-fi, and this is like, man, this is so cool. Even the old, like they said, the original series. I mean, that's going on 60 years old now, almost, and it's just it's
Yeah, and
still
the fact
so
that it
good.
didn't even reach 100 episodes.
Yeah, and the fact that
Yeah,
it
no,
reached
exactly. Yeah,
syndication
because
by
usually
not
you
reaching
get to
100 episodes.
syndication when you reach 100 episodes, and that's like at least 5 seasons. Um,
And this is where the fans saved the show, and it's because of the fans' interaction and letter writing campaigns that they did is why they decided just like screw it, let's just put it in syndication so that people can watch this, because they want, we're not going to make new episodes, but they want to watch it, so it's not gonna it's
yeah.
gonna be good for us, and that's why Star Trek has continued. It's because of the fans.
Indeed. But hurry up and get to Deep Space Nine, all right? Because we gotta fucking talk about it.
I know. We like I said, I'm gonna get there, but we're definitely gonna talk about it, because I mean it's a whole bunch of new stuff to talk about on that.
Right.
So
And Captain Benjamin Sisko is my favorite captain. I said it. I don't. I said what I said.
you know what, Andy, knowing how we are linked, I'm probably gonna end up agreeing
I know,
with
right?
you.
Everyone puts up the false binary of Kirk or Picard. It's like false. Cisco.
Yeah. As of right now, Captain Kirk
Right.
is my favorite captain, but when I get to Deep Space Nine, I may end up changing my mind.
I hope you do.
And you're not the only person to tell me that Deep Space Nine is amazing.
Yes. Believe me. As your as your unofficial twin. Believe me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll get there when I get there.
Sure.
We'll talk about it.
All right.
For sure.
All right. Let's get into topics for discussion tonight.
All right, let's get into topics for discussion.
Let's go with the protests. I mean, since we did since we did do a pretty long review, let's not go into another review right away. Let's break it up a bit.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, with the protests obviously are continuing and spreading, and because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with just it's kind of because initially I think it was only at like a couple of schools, like Columbia being like one of them, and you're looking at this, it's like this is your tax dollars at work, essentially, because these students are doing this and they're cutting class, yet these are the same people that are always constantly bitching about, oh, we need student debt relief, but like you're not even going to class at this point, like what are you doing? But since then, I think the developments of this have gone crazier. So you all across the country, college campuses have exploded in these very similar type of protests, and this is not some like organic, wave of feeling. I think that this is a funded, coordinated thing that is happening, and you can tell for one of a few things. All the signs, usually all the messages and the signs have something similar. You could write that off. It's like, okay, well, they're all kind of breathing off the same emotion. Okay, fine, we'll say that. But why is it that like the signs look the same, the all the equipment that they use looks the same, the tents, and these are all supposed to be poor college students. Where's all the barricades that they're creating? Where's all that coming from? Well, it's being funded. People are giving them. What was it? Essentially it comes from the Qatari government, where if you go down the line of like where the money comes from,
right.
That's where it starts, which is a government that is in support of the Palestinians and Hamas and all that stuff, and it goes back to that. And this is a court coordinated effort to, essentially make this happen. And I also find it very convenient that the timing is right as we're starting to get some maybe traction towards things that are not good for the current regime in power in our country. The border situation is looking terrible, and the news was actually starting to be forced to cover the negativity of what is going on at the border, and a lot of other things that are. It's like we no longer can just hide it by not covering it. We actually have to cover it now.
Also,
like there's too much pressure.
What is it? Because of independent journalists too, it's finding its way into the mainstream through them, because like independent journalists are going down and videotaping and doing interviews with the migrants and the border patrol and things like that, and they're putting up on social media, and it's getting out there regardless. And so so if social media didn't exist, then they could keep going on and ignoring the border and all these things that are going on. But because of essentially the whistleblowing that's going on social media, they're forced to contend. They're forced to contend. They're forced to report on this stuff.
Yeah, well, and which is a good thing. But now it always now that now legacy media is being forced to cover it, that all this stuff starts to pop out. And it always seems whenever there's some sort of big election going on, especially within at least the last, I don't know, several election cycles that I've been alive for, there's always some sort of event, whether it be a mass shooting, a riot, something or other. And it's all a way to shift the narrative, to shift things away from what the real problem is into something else. And that to me is exactly what's happening here.
Right. I mean, you have to think about it too, because like, where are these kids getting these tents? Like, maybe some of these, some of them have tents, but it's like the number of tents that are at these basically like long-term sit-ins. It's like there's no way that these kids, like, all of them have like their own tents. They're clearly being funded. They're clearly being provided these things. You just have to. It's funny because, like, you can call it conspiracy all you want, but if you focus on one thing, and if one thing doesn't make sense, then none of it makes sense. And you have to dig deeper, and just like Rob did.
Yeah.
Going into the funding by the Qataris.
And but the fact that the funding is that's where it's coming from, and it's also a form of election interference. Whether this be like something that our current government is like, listen, like we've been giving you guys money over there for quote unquote relief aid or whatever. Could you maybe help us over here and sow some division and shift the narrative, and we'll we'll rub your back afterwards or something. I don't think it's something as crazy that, but I don't even to think about what our government is up to.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was some
the fact that all this stuff. Yeah, it's like Biden's really getting hammered by the border and his inability to say 4 words in a row without fucking up. So,
or I mean, just like commenting on these so-called these so-called protests at these colleges. Like, it took him 9 days to respond to this. I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's like, he was busy with other things. Like, he was able to make like responses to like non-important things before he commented on like these college protests.
Yeah, because doesn't care. And regular people, like regular students who actually just want to go to class and do what they are there to do, don't give a fuck about they hate these people because they're hindering them from doing what they have
Well, I
paid
mean, what
money
is it like?
to do.
Even the people
Um,
that did get arrested, it was found out to be that majority of these protesters weren't even students. They're outsiders coming into the campus. You know, and I'm pretty sure
yeah,
that they're
that's
paid
another reason to think
agitators.
about like
They're professional protesters.
they have not, it's like they're not even
No,
teachers
no, no.
either. They have
They're
no affiliation
professional
with the school in
protesters.
any way.
They're hired guns essentially.
Yeah, they're hired losers essentially, and I think in some cases where you were seeing these same people show up at these different campuses too. It's not from, I think somebody was showing like footage of, yeah, you see this guy here that's over here in this school. Well, now they showed up over here, and now they showed up over here. And yeah, like I said, they're just professional agitators.
Yeah, and I mean, and then what is it? The typical liberal on Instagram that I follow. He this is for we were supposed to talk about this last week, but yeah, last week he put up a post and it showed like a literal handbook about for these so-called protests, like how to like agitate, how to rile up, it's just like kind of like the step-by-step guide of how to you know uh, basically make yourself get arrested so you can get so the optics of it look like, oh, like, yeah, the school, the police or the school are cracking down on free speech and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. Essentially make how to make yourself into the victim when when you're the aggressor.
It's essentially
Yeah,
the rules for radicals handbook.
pretty much.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's nuts. And first of all, it makes me care about the Palestinians even less. I mean, I already cared nearly zero about them, but now like I I really now I really don't give a shit about
I
them.
mean, yeah, and and
Um,
like with the caveat of
I
saying yes, this is stupid needless war, and that any loss of innocent life is a tragedy. But yeah, it's not like this is not winning me over to your side. Like all these people, like especially all the people,
yeah,
like, especially all the people who are like just blindly following along, or who just have like this unrealistic view of the world, where it's like, oh, the Palestinians are the good guys. Like, no, they're not.
just because you're the
I'm not
underdog does
saying
not
that
mean you're the
Israel's
good
the good
guy.
guy in this either. All right, but you're not like this kind of crap makes me not want to support you at all. Like if ever I ran into like one of these protests, I might punch someone in the face. That's like the
Yeah,
feeling that you're engendering into me. Like I see like all this crazy crap that like taking over of a public university, and like not even just like, okay, if you just occupied the quad or whatever, fine, but then you go and you like mess up the place. There's vandalism, there's graffiti. Then yeah, then it makes me like, and then kind of like the Trump with like, oh, there's good people on both sides thing. Like maybe there are like genuine people protesting, the needless death that's going on in Gaza or whatever. Fine, okay, but guess what? Those outside actors are making me hate you, genuine protesters.
yeah, exactly. It's, exercise those people
Exactly.
out of your group, and then just like with any of this shit, like
Yeah,
it's
I mean, what is it? Really?
yeah, all, as I said last time, all these people are insufferable. I don't like any of them. I don't like
Well,
any
like
of
yeah,
these
like
people.
with like the
And I'm not saying that, like, obviously, like, I'm not anti-protest either, because I think there are times where it's time to, like, not violently, but you sometimes have to do something crazy to make sure that people hear the truth and to get
see.
something
Here's the
done.
thing where
That's not consequence free.
well, here's the thing where like th- these these demonstrations that out in public with the signs and the chanting, meaningless, all meaningless. Like if you want to like if you want to be divest, like the whole divesting. Oh, divest, support from Israel. You fucking do your research, and you see like what companies are heavily donating to Israel or whatever, blah blah blah. Check where like like the money that you're giving to these companies is going to, and then if you see that they're going to Israel, then you stop using those companies. All right, do your own fucking research and start with yourself,
Yeah,
and you start divesting from companies that put into Israel. All right, I'm not saying that Israel's bad or nothing. Don't get it twisted. But I'm just saying, like, if there's a company that you're giving your money to and they're giving it to people that you don't like, then you start for yourself. Don't go the demonstrations out in the streets with the signs and the chanting are meaningless. They don't do shit. They literally don't do shit. But you know what does shit? All right, you know what does have an effect? If you stop giving your money to companies that support your perceived enemies. All right. All right. I mean, I'm someone who talks the talk but also walks the walk, because like with Starbucks, when they started doing it their whole like, oh, let's have a conversation about racism crap, and all this like stupid woke crap. I stopped going to Starbucks altogether. Like I went to like started drinking coffee from 7-Eleven, and then I started making my own coffee. And and I put my money where my mouth is. I stopped giving I stopped giving the company that I felt was taking my money and using it for bad things, and I stopped doing that. So in the same way, that's the protest. That's the way. The protest.
And you make fun of these people. That's another way to comedy always works too, where you make fun of these people.
Them. What is it?
That's not always like consequence free. There is something of a cost to that, because you may have genuinely enjoyed going to Starbucks. Now, like you don't get to enjoy that, but that's a cost of doing what you believe.
Exactly. So I remember but to kind of pedal back a little bit, when you were saying about the actual genuine protesters, they should kick out these paid actors. It was. I mean, not that I agreed with the whole George Floyd riots, but even in L.A., when shit started popping off here, they were down like near like the farmers market and stuff, and like the news crews were down there. You saw people like breaking windows and spray painting, but then you also had alongside that you actually had people like, oh no, like that they're not part. Of course, like those assholes were like wearing all black, had the masks and the gloves and everything. But you had regular people who weren't masked up, who weren't wearing black, calling them out. It's like, oh yeah, these guys aren't part of us. I don't know, these guys aren't with us. They were like at least calling them out. And I mean, as much as I didn't,
I'll give credit for that
with like the marches and the protests, like at least they were calling out these phony agitators, like that were like breaking windows and causing and doing vandalism.
You know what? I don't know if you because you don't hang out in my area all that much, but I'll have to give credit where credit's due. I don't believe in anything that they believe in, probably, but on Sepulveda, this is a street in the valley. The right at the Sepulveda and Ventura, like right where like the
Sherman
that
Oaks
little mall is with the Cheesecake Factory and the Sherman Oaks Galleria. They're on the corner of Sepulveda and Ventura for going on a couple of years now. They have like the BLM people there, like just kind of standing in solidarity for to stand up against police brutality. I don't believe in anything that they stand for, but you know what? I have to give them credit because they have been there like pretty much 24/7 every day for the last like 2 or 3 years. So I was like, damn.
That's
they're there.
And but you know what they're not doing? They're not fucking destroying shit and burning things down. They're peace. They're
Oh, and they're not
right. They're
accosting
peaceable.
anybody at all. Like
They're
they're
peaceably
there just
demonstrating,
they.
and not attacking anybody, not destroying private property. I could totally give them props for that.
No, not at all. Oaks Galleria is not like on fire
Right.
because of
Exactly.
like stuff that they're doing. Even like when shit was popping off in the valley with like the George Floyd stuff, like that, they weren't doing that.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I said, yeah, give them credit where
Yeah. If
credit's
all
due.
they're doing is standing there with signs, saying like "end police brutality," but they're not setting things on fire or attacking people who are trying to just go about their business. You know what? Reluctant applause.
It yeah, it's I am somewhat more. Uh, I would be more willing to listen to what they have to say in that case than with the shit that's happening on our college campuses because those people don't know
Right.
a goddamn thing, and it's all they are. I'm sure that there are some actual students that are that got all into the fervor of the mob, but though obviously those guys don't know anything that they're saying, and then you have the professional agitators who are creating all this chaos, and it's causing all these problems, and that's where it's like that's why I don't know what I don't believe in anything anymore hardly. It's just because of stuff like this, because I don't is there anything genuine that comes from these like the hippies and the Occupy Wall Street people, the shit, it all is funded commie
Yeah. I
bullshit
mean, what is it?
garbage that I don't
Occupy.
want to be
Yeah,
associated with.
Occupy. What was it? It actually led to more crackdowns. Because they started creating like those spaces where you weren't allowed to have you're only allowed to have a certain amount of people, and if you had more than that, then like they would started to arrest people. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember that specifically because I think at the time Battlestar Galactica kind of addressed that um, in one of the episodes because I don't know, for those of you not familiar with the series, Battlestar Galactica, it's about the machines turn on humanity. They nuke their planets, and then they have to go off and find a new place. But in the intervening time, what was it? Uh, they happened upon a habitable world, and in the and it was also interestingly enough, it was an election year, so the president of the colonies of humanity was up for re-election and or election because she was actually appointed. But anyways, but there was another contender um, by the name of Gaius Baltar. He's kind of like he's not the villain, but he's kind of he's an antagonist and somewhat anti-hero. But he wins the election, and as president, he decrees that that they're going to settle this new planet. But and anyways, things happen, and people turn on him, and he's not generally liked. And he's put on trial, and he's acquitted of the charge of treason, basically. And he's forced to live among people that kind of like hate him, but then he also becomes kind of this religious political figure, and the president who was the previous president starts cracking down on his specific sect, and so like they limit their gatherings. So yeah, sound familiar?
Sound familiar?
So the president
Yeah.
decrees or passes a executive order saying, "Oh, your people, you can only have this amount of people in an area for your meetings, and if there's more than that, then like there can't be more than this many people. If not, then you're gonna get arrested." And so I think Battlestar Galactica it illustrated something that was actually happening in real life and which is actually you know part of the United States becoming basically a police state.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry that was a little long
But yeah,
explanation,
it's just
but
more
I
of
have to like give like proper context of like yeah.
no. That's yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, art imitates life. I mean, and art is a commentary on the things that are happening in real time, as we've as we have come to find out in a lot of the as we look more into this stuff, as we look into the history and the culture of things, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally
I know,
fine
but for
with
like
me.
the average
So
viewer, I know I have to have all like this preamble stuff, but it was important to the context of why Gaius Baltar was being persecuted. It wasn't just because oh, he's like this guy who's starting to preach a message of like peace and redemption and blah 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 blah. But there's a reason why they
right,
hated him.
because it went against the
Well, I
powers
mean,
that
no,
be.
well, because because he was once in power, and he basically surrendered to the machines, and which I think there could be a case made that by him surrendering, I mean, it was one of the arguments they had in his trial for treason, um, that if the previous president was still in power, she would have fought them, and everyone would have died, as opposed to Gaius Baltar, who immediately surrendered and possibly saved hundreds of thousands of people.
It's not a great decision, but it was
Right.
essentially the
Exactly.
only decision,
And unpopular.
unpopular
Yeah.
as it
Exactly.
may be.
But all that given the proper context of yeah, like even back then, Occupy Wall Street. People were getting pissed off at those guys too because they were like, disrupting our lives. And I think it's bullshit to say that like sometimes you have to disrupt people's lives to get your message across, but not in the way that these people are doing.
You know how you can disrupt people's lives, and actually might make a huge change if maybe. Well, this would actually take like a whole collective effort. Like I've thought about like what if as a nation we just like what, I'm not going to pay my taxes. Like if we stop paying
Yeah.
what is it, like the income tax we pay every year?
Yeah. Not that we're advocating for people not to pay their
I mean,
taxes, because
then
I don't want to be raided by the feds.
no,
But
but
yeah, I mean, I get as a thought exercise,
because it would.
thought exercise. Yes, if people,
So I know I pay my taxes every year. So federal government listening
yeah,
in, I
but
do
yeah,
pay my tax
thought
every year.
exercise,
This
thought
is a
exercise,
thought
thought exercise.
exercise.
If people stop paying their taxes, like what is the government gonna do? Are they gonna send agents out to every one of our homes to arrest us? They wouldn't have a
If 100% of us as a nation who are just fed up with how the government is run, you're thinking of like putting your money where your mouth is. I don't like that my money's being sent to Ukraine or to Israel or wherever, or to Iran or whatever
yeah,
bullshit
whatever country that hates our
reason
guts.
what we're spending money on. Yeah. Um, if we all just stop paying our income tax, it would. Now it wouldn't be zero money that the government gets, because that would take us just all as a nation collectively just stop working, for us to like no longer give the government any money, and then it'd be like a standoff. Like what do we do? Who
Right.
blinks first at that
Yeah,
point?
it's a game of chicken.
But
Game of chicken.
cutting the nation's, yeah, it really that's what it becomes. It's a game of chicken. Who blinks first? I'd be very curious to see what would happen. I've also been like very curious, like if, let's just say, as a country we decided, yeah, we're not going to vote in the election. If let's say like both to well, there's probably a lot of people out there that think that both candidates suck, which is fine. I mean, there's been many years where it's like there's not really a good option here. But if as a country we decide, you know what, we're not going to vote, what happens then? Do we just kind of keep the person that's there? Do we just they go away and we just kind of live peacefully at that point? Like I'm kind of curious as to what would happen. There's nothing in the Constitution about that or the Bill of Rights. What happens?
Right, exactly. I mean, especially if they tried their, fortifying bullshit. It's like, oh yeah, Joe Biden wins by 200 million votes. But no one voted.
Well, no one voted.
So how did that happen?
We all know that. It would be impossible to coordinate. But it's just an interesting thought. What would happen? What would happen if we as a country decided to just stop paying our taxes?
We all stopped.
What would happen?
How is it? Like, what are they just gonna push things through edict or
Or until we saw some actual change in the government as far as radical term limits or something like where you can't just enrich yourself from creating laws to support the companies that you've invested in, or to allow a stupid lobbyist to essentially like, hey, we spent $40 million on your campaign. How are you going to help pay us back? What are you going to do for us? If you're tired of that stuff, like that, these are some things that maybe think about.
Yeah.
I'm just, like I said, don't do it, but like at the same time, it's also interesting thought exercise.
And think about
what would happen.
This. All the aid that we give, like when's the last time a country gave us aid? Gave us $60 million for our homeless problem.
Yeah, it's never going to happen. The only reason I say that is because I create this thought exercise not just to say like, oh, I'm a radical, but it's like you have to remember the government is for the people. It is there to protect the people. It is there to make sure you have to keep an eye on what the government is doing. They are your employee. And if the employee is not doing their job the way that they're supposed to do, why would you continue paying that employee and not fire them? And people we have gone so far away from that mindset that we just kind of, well, this is just the way things are. We have to have this election. We have to. No. Why are we continuing paying more taxes, and then on the tax we've been taxed on, we get taxed again? I mean, think about with the estate taxes and stuff, where somebody dies and they put in a bunch of money into like a retirement account for their family to be able to something after they die. And that tax money that they put away is now taxed again,
just basically
so that the government can get their hands in it again.
Like your own job, like you work at a job, right? And then so your employer, who pays a lot of taxes for you, the money that you generate for that
Social Security,
your employer, they get taxed like crazy. There's like income tax, health insurance, like Social Security and all that, and then you get it, and then you get taxed, Social Security, Medicare, yada yada yada, and then when you go buy something, and then you go to buy something, that the thing that you're buying is getting taxed, plus the store is taxing you. So it's like you're being taxed to hell.
It's bullshit. Yeah, I'm being like, I would make 3 times as much money. I would. Every time I look at like my pay stub, I'm like, I don't want any of this. Like, and you look at just on a state level,
right? State
taxes. Because our state taxes are
like
pretty
almost
horrible in
40%.
this state, in California. Look at the state of our roads. Our roads are horrible. That's part of like what the fuck we pay taxes for, right? For
Allegedly.
basic maintenance and upkeep of our infrastructure. That is not happening, and it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, allegedly, yeah, we're paying these taxes for all these services
Yeah,
that the government is supposed to do for you, but where's the result? I mean, what I just saw a clip on Instagram of this, supposed, homeless, cleanup, right? And the city comes in and they clean up all the tents and all the the rubbish that's that the homeless collect and keep on the sidewalk. And the guy saw he was he saw this and he filmed it, and then he came back like at the end of the day, like when towards like 6 p.m., and all the homeless people were back reoccupying the sidewalk with all of their stuff again.
Yep.
What was the point of that? What was the point?
Yeah, it's all a shell game.
It's an exercise in futility. If they're not
Yeah.
if they're not going to assist the homeless, if they're merely just doing a cleanup job and just again like Rob said, it's a shell game, and just like merely displacing them for a few hours, but only for them to retake their positions. What was the use? It was all for show. It was all for nothing, and all it was a waste of money.
Yeah. That's all. It's just think about like what we're to be honest, our money is being taken away from us by force, and I'm not saying we should pay zero taxes, because I think there is some use, but the way that we're being taxed right now, we think about the Revolutionary War. They went over to they went to war over just what they felt, what ended up being a very minimal type of tax, and they're like, we have zero representation, we have no say over this, and fuck these people. We need to create our own country and get kind of separate ourselves from this, because we're already separated from them.
I mean,
and it cost them almost.
Although
I
would like to make the distinction
and we are
that
just like,
back then, they were actually exchanging gold, and so a 3% increase in taxes on gold, yes, would have been catastrophic.
but I'm just saying, like,
Right,
as
but
far
like the
as
whole
the
taxation without representation
what we're
thing,
thinking
yes.
about, we're already we are at a level of, we are at critical mass, and everyone's just like, well, okay, I guess we're gonna get taxed a little bit more. It makes sense, and the rich really should pay their fair share. It's like, you're the rich,
Yeah, comparatively speaking
like,
to the rest of the world, you're the rich. Even if you have like, even if you don't even have $500 in the bank right now, you're still richer than the poorest person in any other country.
The 1% starts at like just over 6 figures a year. That's the 1%.
Right. So yeah, this conception
So
of
when they
1%
talk about,
being like these mega millionaires is completely false.
Yeah, they get pissed off because somebody is like successful or is smart, and they save their money, and they get into like large amounts of debt, and they do things the right way, and then somebody just like
I've had this argument
blows
so many
their
times.
money on
I've
stupid
had this
horseshit.
so many times. It's so frustrating because it always comes back. It always devolves into, it's like, oh, like, if you made that much money, like let's say like or especially because it always goes to like the mega wealthy, like the billionaires, right? And the argument is always it's like, oh well, they must have done something shady to make that $1 billion. It always comes at they did. It always comes down to the argument. It's like, well, they must have done something illegal or immoral to make that money, so that's why we should take it from them. Without fail, every single time I try to have this,
You know why
every single
a
time
lot of that?
I try to have this discussion with people, it always devolves into that argument. It's like, well, they did something illegal or immoral to make that money, so that's why it's okay to take from them. It's like, okay, well, what if they don't? And I always
That's what like
hit
you
them
also
back with
have
like,
to think
okay,
about. Like,
what if they don't? What if they don't?
what are
In this
what are
hypothetical, like, what if they did everything by the up and up and they still made all that money? Is it right for you to take their money? And they always say yes. So it's never about whether they made the money ethically.
I guarantee that. Yeah, I guarantee that because this is a. If they looked at the politicians that these people really like are the ones that are championing this idea of like, oh, the rich need to pay their share. It's like, okay, and I assume that you like these people, that you like their message. Yeah, sure, I like so and so. They seem like they're up and up. It's like, okay, well, guess what their worth it, their actual worth is. I don't look at their salary because their salary means nothing because you're paying their salary, but they also have investments in these things. And do you think it's right they are in the power of making laws shaping for this country? And did you know that a lot of the laws that they're working towards benefit the companies that they've invested in and went into quote unquote public service with no money, and based off their set, even though they've worked in this in public service for 20 years, how is it that they've made like 10 times what they would have made based off their salary? That seems a little shady, right? Well, it's because they're manipulating you. Those are the people that are stealing from you, essentially. It's not a mom and shop that is successful. And as far as businesses go, a company that makes $10 million, that is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but yeah, it's like
Because then you have like Amazon stuff that they're making several $1 billion. The mom and pop shop can't compete with that.
right. Yeah, but I've had this conversation with people all the time, and they just they can't see past their own noses.
It's because been they've been manipulated to look at things one way, and when in reality, what the reality is happening on a whole another area that it's kind of like the magician's trick where it's like, hey, nothing up my sleeve over here, but in reality, like all the real shit is happening over on this
Exactly.
side.
Yeah, essentially, they're dangling keys.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I have nothing else to add on that.
Okay. All right, let's moving along. Yeah. Well, we wanted to. I don't know if we're gonna do a review necessarily, but we definitely want to talk about the new show Shogun that recently came out and recently concluded. Um, yeah. Oh my gosh. It's what can I say? It's one great piece of television. I'll say that.
I have to say I was not I was not expecting it to be as good as it was, just because I was such a huge fan of the original miniseries back in the 80s. Although I didn't see it in the 80s, I saw it, it was they had like reruns of it in the 90s, and like I think my mom was watching, so I ended up watching it with her. And it's obviously based off the James Clear novel of the same name, which I really want to get, just because it seems thing I've heard is a really good novel. But man, this remake of they went full
They
on
went in hard.
awesomeness with it, and yeah. Did you watch the original miniseries before, or is this like kind of just your first time coming to it?
I didn't watch the original, but then when I knew that there was a first iteration, from the 80s or whatever. I didn't watch it, but then during the lulls between episodes of the recent iteration of Shogun, I did catch up to where I was in the Shogun show, and I just continue to watch concurrently. Yeah,
Okay.
and I enjoyed it for what it was. Um, recency fallacy be damned, but the recent iteration is, I think, the superior iteration. That doesn't mean I hate.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean I
the
hate
one thing that I would say,
the 80s version. I appreciate it for what it is, but the scope and just like the epicness of the production, it blows it out of the water.
yeah, I think the one thing that maybe doesn't quite work with the new one is the Blackthorn's character, because I feel like he doesn't shine very much inside. I mean, the actor plays him. I think he does a great job. I do like his look. I like his character, but based off like this the original, it seems like he was much more of a smarter character. Felt like he knew more of like what was going on, and it was the one thing you couldn't quite figure out. Does he know? What does he know? What doesn't he know? Does he understand? Doesn't understand the thing? And so that was like with this one, I don't. It seems like he's semi clueless for the most part throughout it. But man, all the Japanese actors were just brilliant. Absolutely, they did so good. The Toranaga and Shona, what the hell was freaking? God, I'm mixing up their names because some of their real names like match up with like the actual like real character name. I'm drawing a blank. Hold on a second. I'm gonna pull it up real quick because I want to make sure I get their names correct.
Well, I mean, okay, I'll give it to you that.
Here we go.
In the 80s version, the Richard Chamberlain version of the character of John Blackthorne, he does seem to have a little bit more agency as opposed to the Cosmo Jarvis iteration, where he's kind of like he's kind of like a leaf in the stream and just kind of being carried by the will of Toranaga. Even though he does have a will of his own, and his desire is to get his shit back and go and fight the Portuguese Catholics. But I think in this one it demonstrates more of Toranaga's like total control over this character, as opposed to in the 80s one where as opposed to in the '80s one
what
where he was still a little
this
bit.
one.
Uh, I think he wasn't as, I guess, Machiavellian. Yeah. The character of Toranaga isn't as Machiavellian in the '80s
Yeah.
version
Well,
as he is in
and
the most recent iteration. And I rather enjoyed it, because it really in a good way subverted the expectation of you know of John Blackthorne finding a way to kind of get out of the grips of Toranaga to go back and continue his private war or whatever against the Catholics. Um,
and these based off of real people too, because Toranaga is essentially the original
yeah, yeah,
Tokugawa
Ieyasu
shogun.
Tokugawa, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then you have like John Blackthorne is based off of like a William Adams. Uh, and yeah, like I said, all these guys are based
this is
essentially based off of real
in
people. Like I mean, all
historical fiction, yeah.
the main characters. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I always loved those. So, yeah, I said I think Anna Sawai as Mariko, she was, oh man, she really did a great job as just playing this very calculated and at times very cold person, and just kind of accepted like the
Right, yeah.
reality
I mean,
as cruel as it may be. But every once in a while, there was times of more elation, like
right.
where you saw like a
She she
little
put
bit
up
of
a
joy
front.
in her face,
Right, she
mainly when
put up
she
a
spent time with
front, and
Blackthorn.
then like the small cracks in the mask were very nice. We're very well done. Because like, yeah, otherwise like she had like this almost like false persona and cold I mean coldness that she or disdain that she had for her husband. But yeah, like having like the cracks in her mask when she's with John Blackthorne, I thought it was a nice contrast to have. Um, I just think this one. I just think the most recent iteration.
The
It does a lot. It does a lot of things better. Like the whole like 6 month like contract thing that they did in the most recent one, as opposed to in the '80s version where it's like 6 months and like John Blackthorne is supposed to you know become accustomed to all of the Japanese ways and things like that. I thought it was a nice. I thought it was better that that the 6 month was a device for Fuji's involvement in the whole series generally.
oh yeah, and the lady who played
Oh
Fuji,
yeah.
she was so great too, and you, I just they changed the story changed up just enough where it's like okay it does they did a few things differently, but they weren't like egregious changes to the story where it's like where well this character does this and then oh yeah all of a sudden like they're doing this other thing that never happened before. It was more of I mean I think some characters died and some that didn't die in the book or I don't, and it's been a while since I've watched the original miniseries, which at the time I didn't realize that I was watching Toshiro Mifune, but it was only until like I watched my first Kurosawa film, and I was like, "Oh shit,
That's the
it's
guy.
fucking Toranaga!" Yeah, it's like I would have never, I would have. That's the guy,
Yeah.
but I think well, Hiroyuki Sanada, who was one of the executive producers of the show, that guy had his hand in everything. He was really involved. I don't remember if he did direct some of the episodes, but all the actors are saying like, well, one that they really respect him and they got onto this project because they wanted to work with him, and then like the guy who plays Yabushige, Tadanobu Asano, those guys have worked
Forever, yeah.
together a lot
Back in Japan.
in their throughout their career. Like they're friends. They've been a lot of Japanese projects together. And then if we when we did 47 Ronin, right? They both of them were in that picture. Because you had Hiroyuki play Oishi, and then Lord Kira was played by Asano. So those guys work really well together. I think the chemistry between them is really great because I think you feel the frustration of like Oshie. It's like, God, he is working against him, but his loyalty is so in the wind. He's just a leaf blowing in the wind. Like he wants to side with the person that's gonna win, and he thinks it's gonna be going one way. It's like, well, maybe it is gonna be Toranaga, and that's like, no, it's not gonna be Toranaga. Oh wait, I guess it is gonna be Toranaga, and it's just like, man, and the guy just being like, pulled in two different directions, and ultimately it ends up in his death.
Dude,
so
his death
it's
scene
really
is so great.
And then you also,
just like you see like,
yeah,
because he's getting his comeuppance, and then right before he commits seppuku, he pleads with Toranaga. It's like, oh please, can you tell me like your plans? Like, was it your desire to be shogun this entire time? And he's like, he's like, oh, I promise I'll take it to me with to my grave. Just tell me like what your plan was. And then the coldest line ever delivered. It's like he mirrors back his own words to him. It's like, why tell a dead man the future? And it's just like, oh my god, that was so good.
oh dude, fuck yeah, dude, it's so good.
Yeah, and I think,
and then even Toranaga, like you're always left guessing, like, what is this guy gonna do? And obviously, I remember the 80s miniseries, but even there's some stuff that he does so differently in this one. I'm like, what's gonna happen here? This is I'm not. Yeah, I'm kind of left on the edge of my seat. Like, I gotta see what happens next. I can't wait.
yeah, absolutely. After every episode, you're just like, man, I just want to find out what happens next. And, especially it was like frustrating too because like,
yeah, I was like,
I got
well,
to the
fuck,
point in the miniseries where I like caught up to everything. It was like, oh damn it! So I had to wait for like the slow drip of each week.
yeah, that's where I was at too. Because I missed it when it first came out, and I was like, well, okay, I'm 3 episodes behind. I was like, I'll watch the first 3 episodes, and because I knew episode 4 was gonna be coming out, it's like, and then I got to episode 4 and finished that. It's like, oh my god, I gotta wait. Damn. Well, but at the same time, it's like, well, let me think on it. And it was one of the podcasts I listened to. They were doing bonus episodes where they were talking about each episode and kind of breaking it down. It's like, thank God I have this. And what was also great, if you watch it on Hulu, they have like little behind the scenes stuff, and they actually have a link to people, I guess, like people that were in the show, kind of talking about like their characters and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. I do. So it kind of kept me engaged and thinking about the show, and gave me something to listen to until the next episode. And there's not a lot of shows that I do that for. So this one definitely captured me out of Japanese cinema. And I think the idea of this having, Japanese characters playing in these roles, and it being like a mixture of English, and although the English was supposed to be Portuguese, which I know people like crack down on. It's like, well, do you want the whole thing to be fucking subtitled?
It's a very
like,
clever way because this is
to be like
a Western production, right? And I mean, there's only so much subtitling they can do, and I thought it was a very clever way of having the actors speak English, but in universe.
Well, the other thing too is you have to think about like
universe, like it's understood to be Portuguese. it's a very clever way.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, well, then you have to. The problem is though, then you have to find actors who speak Japanese and Portuguese, and then that you might not get the best actor at that point either. Sure, your white actors, they could be speak Portuguese and like all that, but then your Japanese actors who are some of the
Right.
translators like Mariko, you'd have to have a young woman who speaks Japanese and Portuguese and can make that effective. It's like you have to compromise at some
or even
at some point.
if you can get someone to just like barely pull it off, it becomes a little bit of a fool's errand because the crew was largely Japanese and like specifically you know crew that has worked on like these I believe I believe they're called Jedi Geki, period pieces, period films. And so like there have been even a greater language barrier because like especially like the English speaking directors like when they're directing like they have to direct that person who's speaking Japanese, but then they have to bring in a translator to translate to some of the Japanese actors like so there's like already like maybe 3 or 4 layers of translation going on. It's like then you want to add on Portuguese to it. It's like come on, people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you have to compromise at some point, and that just doesn't.
Right, but
It's not gonna make
this is production. Yeah, and this is
a
production
good
for a
production.
Western audience, and so yeah, sure, you can say like, oh well, like what, people don't speak Portuguese or in the West. It's like yeah, fine, whatever. But this is for an American production. So and I thought it was very clever of them to
Exactly.
have it in universe, even though they're speaking English, for that to be Portuguese. I thought yeah, that's a very clever way.
Yeah, and we all knew that they were speaking Portuguese. Like you expected that. Like no one. Yes, they're actually speaking English. You have to use your imagination sometimes, guys, and just enjoy what you got. It's good. It's like shut the
Like
fuck
yeah,
up and
would
just
it like
enjoy it.
really have like would it really have elevated that much more if they were actually speaking Portuguese? No. Come on, get over
No.
yourselves. I mean, the only thing
It's like,
the
oh my
only
god,
criticism that I would fully like lambast or whatever is like
what
the whole like the diversity argument. It's like, oh, we're the black samurai. It's like shut the fuck up.
Thankfully, I didn't hear any shit. I did not hear any of that because
There was a contingent. There was a contingent.
no, those people don't exist.
But there was a contingent. There was a contingent.
Was there?
Luckily, I think that, they weren't. They were drowned out by the awesomeness that was this show, and so people were just like, whatever. But there was a small.
16th century Japan people. Hello. There's no black people. I'm sorry. There are Japanese, and there was a contingent of Portuguese and English people in Japan at that point. And to be honest, the Portuguese and the English they were the minority. Okay, there was like not that many. It was mostly Japanese, and let me tell you, there's no African slaves coming over into Japan. I can guarantee you that. It does not fucking exist.
Right.
So
yeah,
shut
because, there's
up.
like that, because there's that one photo of that one black guy in samurai armor. It's just like, yeah, a photograph. When was photography, invented? Or like at least like our modern
Late
understanding
19th
of
century.
photography. Yeah, the late 19th century.
It's like shut up. God, it's like it's like, to be honest, you're lucky that you have even like a white
Right.
character in this
Yeah,
fucking story, because this was a real period in Japan, as like, as they're trying to, as you have Europeans trying to break open Japan for the riches within. That's the whole point of
yeah.
the goddamn story.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
like,
like it's the whole
that's why
point of like
Blackthorn is there.
diversity or whatever. Well, it's like for crying out loud,
And they're the bad people.
There's already a black Anne Boleyn, all right, a black Anne Boleyn, all right. I think we've given you enough.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Christ Almighty.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, just like, if that's your complaint, you don't like anything.
You're not a serious person. You're not a serious person.
Go watch your very limited series, or here's this crazy thing. Go and make the stories. Like, you cry about not being represented. Okay, well, make the representation. You do it.
Even if it's not
You write the stories
accurate,
that are important to
put
you.
a black guy in 17th century Japan.
Fuck, what was it? The Man with the Iron Fist, which is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I mean, that's essentially like a black samurai film. It fucking sucks, but it's there. You can watch it.
Was that with RZA? Yeah, there you go.
With the RZA.
Yeah.
It's fucking horrible. And don't get me wrong, I love the Wu-Tang Clan, and I like the RZA, but that movie fucking sucks. It's really bad. It's like, and I know the guy loves
it's all
and
it's all over their music.
I respect him for doing it, but
what is it? One of the the specials about Bruce Lee. One of the people they interviewed was Wu-Tang Clan, like with RZA and and the rest. And they're talking about how, like, growing up, they during on the weekend, during on the TV, they would play Hong Kong cinema.
Yeah, if I wanted to wax poetic with them about like Shawscope and like Sonny Chiba films, you know who I might talk to? Probably talk to the RZA, because I think the guy knows what he's talking about. But it's just like, that film is terrible. It's so bad. I was drunk and I still hated the film.
Dude, wasn't Russell Crowe in that movie?
Oh, I don't remember. Like, it was just, I had to look. Actually, that's
like,
a good question. You know what? I'm gonna look that up because I don't remember.
In, like, one of these movies. It might have been something else, but I'm pretty sure it was this one. But yeah, no, I mean.
So 2012, wow. Jesus Christ. So let's. You know what? Yes.
Okay.
Russell Crowe is in this.
I'm not wrong.
You are not wrong.
Usually I'm not wrong. So that tracks.
Yeah, you had the RZA, who was the main character. You had Russell Crowe, Lucy Liu. Whoa. God, Eli Roth was in this. Daniel Wu, who actually you look as an actor. He did the there was an FX show that he did that was really good. I'm drawing a blank on what it is at the moment. I think it was what did he do? He did Daniel Wu. What the hell was that show on FX? It's pissing me off. Like, let's see. Oh, Into the Badlands. That was the one. Dude, he was that show was really good. Let's see. And then he also was it Dave Bautista was in that. Oh my god. There was like this whole list of just it has like good actors and stuff in there, and like it's just not a good movie. Like, I mean, it's only like an hour and a half, but it felt like it was 3 hours long. It was so just not good. So, sorry, I'm giving you some fodder for our next Schlocktober. If you wanted to put that would might kill me. Putting up that film.
Well, I mean, yeah. October's just around the corner.
I know it
All
is.
right. Anyways, yeah, but Shogun, yeah,
Yeah. So sorry, guys. There's no Black Samurai. But watch Shogun. It's good. If you like, kind of like it's a Game of Thrones-esque historical fiction drama.
Yeah, if you like intrigue,
and the characters are
with a little bit of like political intrigue with a with a little bit of sexy time.
Well, yeah, and here's the other crazy thing too. If you like powerful women in film and show TV, this is right for you because Mariko and
the brother to the heir,
the other chick and Fuji, like those are strong
even the
women.
madam of the
Let me tell you,
whorehouse. She's a pretty powerful character.
Oh, dude, she controlled everything, dude. And then even like her head whore was like really like a strong, powerful woman.
Was actually, you would think that she would be like this negative force, but she was actually a positive force on Omi. Because Omi, he was because Omi was at least in this iteration, was the nephew of Yabushige, and Yabushige was trying to play both sides, and he was kind of going along with his uncle's plans, but then with because of their many sexy rendezvous, what is it?
She helped set him straight.
I forget what her character's name is. Her character name is, but yeah, like during like their sexy interludes, like she would like actually like counsel them and pretty and pretty well, like when he was like when he needed when he needed some like really good counseling, like she gave it to him, like, and even like towards the end when he asked her like, oh, do you think that what was it that he asked that something about service something about service or loyalty,
right?
And she was like, she's like one of those down ass bitches where it's like she was following her mistress like all the way to the end, like, and she followed her mistress to like a really good outcome because like the madam of like the tea house, she was able to negotiate with Toranaga for land so she could like basically start up
her brothel that you wanted to like her special brothel,
like a brothel and kind of like retirement community for like used up women as well. And so and because of like her counsel saying like, oh no, like I follow my mistress and I serve her well, no matter what. And so and because Omi too, he was being torn in this different directions, like whether being loyal to his uncle or being loyal to his lord Toranaga. I think he ultimately,
and he chose his lord just like Rin did. So kind of a really
So you want to talk about so again about if you want to talk about powerful women,
kind of a
there you go.
Yeah, Shogun, great. I highly recommend everyone watch it. It's streaming now. All the episodes are out on Hulu, and like I said, if you haven't seen it yet, you haven't read the book, you didn't watch the original miniseries, you're not missing out on anything. Just go watch the new one. It's very, very good.
Indeed. All right. With the topics of discussion over, we'll move into our final review for tonight, and that's the start. And that also starts off our new theme for the month, the Devil in the Details month, and we'll be starting with Bedazzled from 2000, starring Brendan Fraser and Liz Hurley, peak Liz Hurley. In my opinion.
Oh my God, this was an awakening 14-year-old Rob. Let me tell you, I saw this in theaters back in the day, dude. Liz Hurley, oh my God. I'm a Christian, but man, like, her as the devil, I might be willing to switch sides with that. I didn't know the devil
It's
could be
all a
so
lie,
hot.
Rob. Anyways. All right, let me hit everyone with the synopsis and we'll get going. Here's the synopsis for Bedazzled from 2000. Desperate to gain the affection of a beautiful co-worker, Elliot strikes a deal with the devil, a drop-dead gorgeous woman with a wicked sense of humor. In exchange for Elliot's soul, she will grant him 7 wishes, but with each wish, he gets more than he asked for. What is it? Released in October 2000. Oh, this movie was directed by Harold Ramis. I totally forgot about that. Again, and starring a whole host of familiar faces. Particularly at least those who grew up in the late '90s, early 2000s. Of course, you have Brendan Fraser, of course, Elizabeth Hurley, Orlando Jones. Who else?
The one thing I remember like Orlando Jones from is like the 7-Up commercials.
Yeah.
Make 7-Up yours.
7-Up yours. But
this is like peak Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Jones, you mean?
Orlando Jones, I mean. Yeah, Orlando Jones. My bad. But no, this is like I said, this is a movie that I saw in theaters back in 2000, and Elizabeth Hurley, my God, is she super hot in this? And one thing I didn't know about the film, going into this, or back in 2000, or actually up until right before we start doing the deciding on doing this film for the review, was that this is based off of it's a remake of a 1967 film, which it's written like it's a comedy film, a British comedy film, and I think it's a little bit different than what we have here. This is obviously has much more of a 2000s flair to it, and I didn't realize that this was directed by Harold Ramis at the time. I kind of wasn't paying attention to who directed stuff or who did stuff like that. Yeah, I when I was coming to it this time, I was like, holy shit, this is a Harold Ramis film. Like, I think maybe that's why. Is it one of his best? No, but it certainly does have that Harold Ramis flair to it, which is kind of cool. And yeah, I mean, yes, he's one of the writers behind Ghostbusters and played Egon. But coming back to this film after almost 25 years later, I realized that I still like this a lot, and that I think does have a good message. You have Fraser's character, who is what's his character's name? He is Elliot Richards. He is kind of a lonely, dorky loser, but the way that he portrays himself is he's kind of the guy that's trying too hard to make friends, and he sounds like a guy who maybe like watches too much TV, or thinks what like super cool culture stuff. Like, he'd be the dude to be like, "So what's up?" like doing all the shit, from like the Budweiser commercials. Like, I would be his way that he thinks he can like kind of get in with like people. Say, hey, yeah, let's go and hang out with the chicks and put down some suds. Like, yeah, so cool. Like, he's trying too hard to fit
Yeah,
in,
even
and he
yeah,
and
even in
everyone
the
he's
office,
a
like
joke.
he was like trying to be
And
funny about calling out this one coworker for being late, and it just sounded like he was being an ass.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, thanks. And so yeah, no one likes the guy. He's a joke, and he essentially but then he sees this one woman that like is also works at the company that he's infatuated with, and you almost see his tone changes. He goes from being a guy that talks way too much to a guy that can't talk at all, and he has no game. And so he ends up alone because everyone leaves, and he prays like, God, I wish I could be with a woman like I'd do anything to be with a woman like that. And that's when what we come to find out is the devil presents herself. God, smoking Elizabeth. And this is one of my favorite roles of hers. Like, I don't know if I've seen her in any dramatic roles. Like, she's a lot of the films I know she's been in have been comedies or like kind of like rom-coms. But man, she's really good in this. And the idea of she has to prove that she is the devil, essentially, or what she claims to be. And it's like, listen, you sign your soul over to me, and it's like this giant ass contract. And she's like, well, you get 7 wishes, and you whatever you want, no problem. And he's like, and then it's anything, yeah,
But
like whatever you want.
I do like the little
And
exit
so
clause. Like if it's not working out the way you like it, you could always like do a reset.
yeah, if it's not exactly what you wanted, then you just take your little pager and you hit 666, and we'll try again. And that's where, like, is it silly, like all the stuff that Elliot Richards goes through? Yes, but all the things that he thinks that he wants in life, and like what it takes to win people over and have friends, through this experience, he realizes that these things are not they're not right. Yes, is it good to have like money in itself is not a bad thing, fame is not in itself a bad thing, but I think what he ends up coming to find out is that being comfortable with who you are, and like wanting the world to be better for the people around you and not being a nuisance to the people around you, that's what's important. And that's when um I think that's kind of the importance of this film. We go through this comedic way of telling that story of, it's a very Twilight Zone-esque type of story where you're working with the devil and you're trying to get all the things you want, but like those things that you want aren't. It's I think they make fun of this in The Simpsons as well, where it's like, and I don't want any.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like the
yeah. That
monkey
was
paw
exactly what I
situation.
was
It's like,
thinking.
I don't want any like
The guy's
zombie
like, yeah, Homer.
turkeys,
Yeah, he's
and I
like
don't want
trying to
any like
wish for a better situation. He was like, all right, monkey paw. It's like I wish for a sandwich, a turkey sandwich, but no, I don't want a zombie turkey or the sandwich eats me or anything like that. I just want a regular turkey sandwich. He gets the sandwich and he takes a bite. It's like it's kind of dry. It's kind of dry.
Yeah, it's that situation where like, he wants to be, maybe he wants to become. I want to be very rich and I want to be very powerful. I want to be married to was it Allison is
Allison,
her
yeah.
name, girl that he's infatuated with, and he ends up turning out to
He ends
he
up
can
being
speak
a
Spanish, and he's
Colombian drug
surprised by
lord.
it, and he's like, yeah, and it turns out that but Allison hates him and is fucking her English instructor who is plowing her, and it turns out like none of his friends are with him, and so they're not loyal to him, and so you have this whole situation that happens there, and then it's like, okay, well,
all the wishes have like this really unexpected twist to them.
Yeah, like it's not quite what he said.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's actually, you know what? It's actually funny because he should have realized this with his very first wish, which, you know, is kind of contentious. You know, there's contention in that because you know, chronologically, his first wish was for a Big Mac and a Coke. And what happens? The devil like goes with him on a city bus, goes to McDonald's, and, you know, presents him in front of, you know, the cashier, but then, like, you know, he still had to pay for it. But, you know, he still got the Big Mac and Coke. So so like that should have been his first like red flags. Like, wait a second, like, I wish for this, but like I still had, you know, like it wasn't exactly the way I thought it was gonna be. Yeah.
What kind of wish is this? Exactly. I had to pay for it.
That should have been his first clue into like that these wishes are not gonna be what he thinks it's gonna be.
Yeah, and then I mean, him. What was it? What was the next one? Because he did the.
He wished he was the most.
Was that the one where he was
like emotionally sensitive person in the world?
Yeah, that. It's like when you would look at the sunset, just like couldn't stop fucking crying. Oh, I actually wrote this like random sonnet about your hair. Would you like to hear it? And it's like, oh, Allison's in love with him, but like he's a fucking weak man. It's like nobody wants
Allison
to like
goes off with the bullies to go get like have a train ran on her essentially.
Yeah, it's like, you want to buy me a drink, and like, you know, I don't care. Like I just want you to pretend that you like think about my feelings, and you just like, you know, have a 3-way gangbang on me. It's like, cool, man. You know, it's like, wait, Allison. It's like, sorry, see ya. It's like, dude, I forgot about it. So that's fucking funny.
It's real life.
And then real life, but it's like, don't be that sensitive, okay, guys?
Yes. Or at least don't emote like a woman. It's not wrong.
Listen,
it's not wrong. There are for men to have emotions. It's not wrong, but do not emote like a woman.
Yeah, don't cry at fucking sunsets. There's some appropriate moments to cry. Like, listen, I watch Rocky and I cry every time at the end of that movie. It's just like, because the man like did exactly what he wanted to do, and he got to share it with the woman he loves. Boom, it's a love story. Right. It's awesome. And it's
in my opinion, there's only 3 appropriate times for a man to cry. You know, when his mom dies, when the birth of his first child, and at the Grand Canyon.
Well, Rocky's my Grand Canyon, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Rocky with whatever, you know, or substitute Grand Canyon with whatever, you know, thing that moves you.
Yeah, but I'm not like watching some you know, random like rom-com. It's like, it's so beautiful they got together. It's like, no, just don't do that. Don't cry at the fucking sunset, guys.
Yeah, and then he wishes,
or write a sonnet about like some girl's hair.
You know, like a basketball player, but then, you know, he's like the best ever, but he has a tiny peen.
Oh, dude, and he's so fucking stupid too. It's like, I'll give it 100%, and like I just no team. And it's like all like the platitudes that you have. A lot of these dumb athletes, especially in basketball. There's a lot of dumb ass. This would be like what LeBron would say,
but I think at the end
of his interview, like
I think at the time it was more of a criticism of what is it, Shaq, because he had some pretty like stupid things he said.
Shaq is not a stupid guy. He sounds stupid, but
I mean, I'll give it. Yeah, Shaq. Shaq is smart. Like, he's smarter than he looks or sounds. But yeah, But yeah, he's
Yeah,
he's like this big famous basketball,
and
but yeah,
LeBron is
small
dumber
team.
than he's.
And then he wishes that he was like this, suave, sophisticated, charming man, but he ends up being a fairy. Um, he then wishes, he was president of the United States, but then he ends up being Lincoln and then getting assassinated.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. And that's where like he ends up deciding like I'm not gonna use my last wish. It's like, or it's like he thought he had two, and then realized like, oh no, like one left. Well, I'm not gonna do it, and he ends up like getting arrested. And that's where we meet his soulmate, who I think
Yeah.
that's God, right? Like the
Yeah. Yeah.
the guy that he meets. And that's when he realized, like, okay, well, yeah, I am going to use my last switch, and I wish that Allison would have a good life.
And yeah, wouldn't you know?
And it's
Yeah.
an
Yeah. Wouldn't you
unselfish
know
wish.
the deal breaker is that you're out of the contract if you use your wish for an unselfish reason. And wishing
Yeah,
for someone else to have a good life, was the ticket out, out of the contract. Although it was interesting because, when Elliot and the devil have like their final confrontation, he goes back to the nightclub where he was when it was filled with all those beautiful people, and they all were like clamoring to get next to him or have their picture taken with him. When they go back, they're all uglified or like all old and wrinkled. Just
yeah. I wonder, like, we're seeing in that club the reality, the decay and
mm,
the ugliness, and in the darkness, it looks all beautiful and cool and nice. But because when he came back to
mm,
it, it was the daytime, and that's when when the light
yeah,
hits it, it's like, ooh, this is horrible.
no better.
And so I think there's
No
something.
better disinfectant than sunlight, right?
Yeah, exactly. But this experience has changed Elliot forever. I think he became a
Mm,
better person, and he realized that I think he found what he was looking for. Because he was
mm,
unhappy with himself, and all the things that you would think that would make somebody happy, he realized that those were all things that he doesn't need. He had to actually dig deep down and realize that there's no quick fix, there's no quick answer, but you have to. It's kind of the things that are worth it are not
right.
easily obtained. You have to work at it, and you have to be something different. You have to be someone that works hard to change who you are and be a
Or
better person. And that's what
also like the
happened.
catalyst for change can't be something or someone else. It has to start within yourself. And after those experiences, he realizes like what he has to do to change the outcome of his life. And so which then puts him on the path to being a more confident, assertive type person. There's like I think it's just before the final confrontation, but there's that scene where his coworkers are trying to like goof on him a little bit and imitate him,
Make
but
fun
then
of him.
he's not having any of it. It's like he grabs
That's
it's
not
like
who
he
I am
grabs
anymore.
the coworker by the collar and it's like knock that shit off. And it's just like he didn't have to even say anything, but he just like grabs him by the collar and it's like it's like message received. Like and all the other coworkers who were who were laughing, like then realize like, oh shit, this guy is not the same guy anymore. We can't just walk all over him.
Right.
But then
Yeah, and then he ends up like seeing it, and he ends up seeing Allison and is able to talk to like
mm-hmm,
confidently talk to her, and it turns out that
mm-hmm.
she's seeing somebody. Uh, Darn. Well, if that changes, then
Yeah, consider
you
me,
know, let
consider
me
me.
know. I'll be here.
But then something.
Yeah, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so sweet. That's
But
so
then
nice.
but then I guess a better opportunity comes up, with the new neighbor girl that moves in, which is played by the same actress who plays Allison, but she's this different girl, but they actually have something in common, and being neighbors and everything. There's a little bit more of a natural reason why they would kind of have a rapport, want to build like rapport with each other, but it just comes more naturally, and they end up getting together.
Yeah, that's the and it's because she's kind of a little bit of a nerd,
Mm-hmm.
like he is. They're into like speakers. Like, oh man, dude, check out my new speakers. Like they pretty cool, right? It's like, wow, that's cool. And so there's this like natural connection that happens, and going through this crazy experience that he went through, and he didn't get what he thought he really wanted, was Allison, and it's like it ended up she was unattainable. But then because he was able to let that go, something better came into his life, something that was better for him. It's potential that him getting together with Allison, maybe in those scenarios that he was in, maybe those are all aspects of Allison that were being shown in these different visions, and it's like she's not the person for you. But once he was able to overcome that problem, someone else that was good for him came into his life, and maybe that was a gift, from God, saying that, the things that are good in life are not you can't just him just wishing for it, or like whatever. You have to work at it, and I think it's exactly what happened in this
Well, I
case.
don't
And it's
necessarily think like
who gets.
yeah, I don't necessarily think that the Allison we see in like the visions or of like in the wishes are not necessarily Allison's part of Allison's personality. I mean, if you want to be really philosophical, I think they're all aspects of female nature. You know, like
Well, that's
just
that
generally.
possibly doing.
But I think it's just like Elliot pedestalized Allison too much, and like he wanted to be with her without even like knowing anything about her. Like like even he admits like, oh yeah, we had like this one small interaction, but that was enough for him to idolize her and pedestalize her and like make her this ultimate good thing, when like he didn't know anything about her.
Yeah. So who would have guessed that this like 2000s era comedy would actually have some sort of like message to it, or that it actually has something more to say than just like, oh, isn't it so funny? I mean, don't get me wrong, the laughs are genuine. I actually
Yeah,
I still laughed at it, 25 years
yeah.
later,
Brendan
24 years
Fraser
later.
is a really good comedic actor. His
Oh
like
yeah, I
timing
mean
and
he has like,
everything is perfect.
kind of I'm really happy because this is like right after this, like he kind of ended up or actually it was after all the Mummy films. Like I think the last one he did was like 2003, but his back was just like completely wrecked by doing those films, and he took a break from acting for like a little while because he had to recover his body. And he had a kind of an interesting career in the 90s and early 2000s, and was doing some good films, some not so good films, but he did a lot of good films, and then kind of just faded into the distance, to heal up. And well, it's not one of my favorite films. The Whale was a he was great in it, and as
Yeah,
horrible as his character
I
was.
hated that movie. I hated everyone in that movie. I don't think it was like there was like a deeper message of self discovery or whatever
No,
bullshit. I hated that movie.
but he did a great job in it. I'm glad
Yeah,
he got the accolades for it.
I will say I hated all the characters. I hated the movie, but all the actors did a phenomenal job of their performances.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
And like
he
yeah,
was
not
amazing in
and
it. It
yeah,
was just like,
and
I
not
mean,
I'm not even just talking about Brendan Fraser, but I think even all the I mean, except for that one like Stranger Things girl, I don't think she did that great of a job. But like
yeah.
the Asian like the Asian girl, I think she did a good job.
His
Yes,
caretaker, yeah.
caretaker, I think she did a good job. Brendan Fraser obviously did a good job. Um, I think even the ex-wife did a good job.
Oh yeah, but it's one of the Brendan Fraser is one of the good guys in
Yeah,
Hollywood. There's not very
yeah.
many
It's
of
really
them, but
sad because
he's
he was essentially destroyed by a meme. Because there was like this one like Golden Globes, and he like had like this weird like clap thing, and then he became a meme. Like literally, like they like it was a really like awkward like me like clap and like awkward like face that he made, and just like it kind of tarnished his career a bit.
yeah, which is sad because I think he's a good guy.
Hmm.
I think he's a great actor,
Yeah, although
and this film he
now there's a little bit like coming out saying like he might have been actually not just like the physical stuff, but I think like he might have been blackballed a little bit.
I mean that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because like it's one because
Um,
like no one's gonna like shit on a guy for like oh like I hurt myself and I need some time to rest. Like oh yeah, no one's like gonna be like oh yeah like just especially tremendous talent as
maybe he
Brendan
just wouldn't give
Fraser.
in to like yeah.
But like yeah, I like
I wonder if maybe he wouldn't give in to certain stuff that like he is like yeah I'm not gonna do
yeah,
that.
you know. But
He
anyways,
didn't want to go to those eyes wide shut parties.
right? Yeah, like yeah, he might have yeah, it's like like he might have been Madison Cawthorn.
Yeah,
But for those of you who don't
but
know,
I
he's the crippled member of Congress that allegedly was invited to a sex party, and it's like no thanks. And then mysteriously he lost
yeah
his re-election campaign.
yeah it's surprising.
Surprising.
Um, no, I actually really like this movie. I think it has a great like message to it, and it's funny. I think it's still funny today. It's still yeah. Is it a little bit over the top and a little bit silly? Absolutely, but it still holds up to me.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's just again, yeah,
Um,
Brendan Fraser's comedic acting chops are just stellar. Like even
Elizabeth Hurley too is like really good in this.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Elizabeth Hurley has
Oh
some
yeah,
great
yeah, yeah,
comedic
yeah,
chops in
yeah.
this too.
But just like it's funny because his like physical and like comedic timing kind of reminds me of John Ritter.
Oh, that's a
Who, yeah,
yeah. I could totally see
yeah, who
that.
like yeah, and John Ritter was a master of comedy timing or comedic acting.
Yeah,
So yeah, so not a
I
bad group, not a bad man to
that's
be.
a great comparison
Yeah,
actually.
just like when he's like he's still kind of like awkward Elliot and like his first interactions with Liz Hurley's devil and like like the cue ball going into the hole and like kind of like near his genitals and just having like that reaction and just like the
Yeah,
the confounded face of when the contract drops in in his lap ostensibly crushing his testicles you know
uh, but great to see.
yeah so all right yeah let's give our if there's anything else we can give our ratings.
Uh, no, like I said, this was a certain awakening for young me back in 2000. I don't know about you, Andy, but
Well,
God,
I was
like
16.
that red dress that she wore in like when they first step into her
Yeah.
office, that like with that giant slit down her leg. Oh my God, that was oof.
Yeah. Well, I'm 2 years older than you, so I was 16 when this movie premiered.
Oh,
So
you're probably even like yeah, you were probably
yeah,
worse
I was
than
worse
me.
than yeah.
I still have a crush on Elizabeth Hurley to this day
Yeah,
because of this movie.
I mean, yeah, she still looks good, even like in her 50s.
She's still smoking
She still
hot,
looks
dude.
good.
Like for what she's like in her 60s now, right? Yeah, she's still
50s or
hot.
60s? Hold on, let me take a quick pop in. Let's see.
Yeah, that's a good question. How old is she?
Is she? Oh, she's 58, so she's still in her 50s.
58.
But yeah, she still looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, not like prime, but
yeah, she still looks real good.
She looks good for her age.
But she's still got it going on.
Yeah, she looks good for her age.
Still got it going on.
Yeah, although I don't understand this whole like still it's still like there's like that meme of Betty White when she was like 50 on the Golden Girls, and then you have like Jennifer Aniston who's like topless and like on the cover of like some movie, and it's like this is the new 50, and it's like I don't understand like this need to remain looking young. I mean, I get it, but I don't understand it.
I mean, Elizabeth Hurley still looks, like she doesn't. She looks her age, but like she's not like
it's
decrepit or anything.
It's that line in
she's aged well.
It's that line from Sunset Boulevard. It's like there's nothing wrong looking like a 50-year-old, or 25-year-old, except for if you're a 50-year-old.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So.
And it's like you're perfectly, because when you look at her character in Sunset Boulevard, she's not ugly. She looks good, but she thinks that she has to go back to her silent era days, and that's what a lot of these
days.
Yeah, it's like you don't do that. You're never gonna get there. It's like it's just you're going against nature.
That's an uphill.
And that's what a lot of these actors and actresses do. It's like, what the fuck are you doing to yourself? You're turning yourself into a freak.
Yeah, and I mean, at 50 years old, you shouldn't be like regarded as like this sexual object. I'm sorry. I'm hate me if you're gonna hate me.
Yeah.
But yeah, like at 50 years old, like as a woman, you shouldn't be still regarded as this like sexual being. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just not.
Yeah,
a thing. Like,
and
no,
I mean, I'm not saying that because it's different for men. Just like if a man is in his 70s, he shouldn't be thought of as a sexual being either.
Well, maybe Burt Reynolds be.
Okay, maybe
would beg to differ at the time.
Yeah, but it's just I'm just saying.
Paul Newman, Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, and I might and I might even throw.
the exceptions.
I think Brad Pitt will still look pretty good when he reaches.
He's still good looking too.
Know, but he's like I think he's like in his late 50s, early 60s. So yeah.
He's still looking good though.
Yeah, so I'll but again, men are different, but even
that's true.
But men are different, but I would say that a man in his 70s should not be like thought of as like this like sexual being.
They shouldn't be on like the front of like Playgirl or whatever the fuck as.
No more than should a 50-year-old woman be in Playboy.
Yeah, and it's like, listen, like you're still attractive. Don't get me wrong, and like I said, for me, there's a 14-year-old me that still thinks of thinks of Elizabeth Hurley from back then, and I still find her attractive. But that's not like I wouldn't say she's like this like ultra sex symbol. That's just not the reality anymore.
Yeah, there's a time and season for everything.
Exactly.
Like if it's constantly spring, then we'll get sick of it. And like the only reason we appreciate spring is because there's the summer, fall, winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and of course, like all kind of interrelated things. Like the only reason why we can appreciate winter is because we know there's going to be a spring, summer, and on and on and on. So, yeah, I mean, again, no shade being thrown at Liz Hurley. All right, Liz Hurley will always be a tasty slice to me.
Exactly. But yeah, how would you rate this, Sandy?
For me, I'd give this a solid. I'd give this a solid 4.
Yeah, I think
Or at least if not that,
that's kind of where I'm at too.
a solid 3.5 with a tentative 4. It's still high up there. No, I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm actually. Yeah, I'm going with the 4 too, just because, as I said, is it funny? It does what it
Mm-hmm.
sets out to do. It is a comedy film. Which I think the original
Mm-hmm.
was a comedy as well, and it has a message behind that. It's not shoved in your face, but this is not just a like, let's have a bunch of laughs and we'll kind of just never think about this again. And I think there's a reason why that this film has kind of stuck with me as long as it has, because it does have a really powerful message behind it. Um, you know, even selling your soul to the devil doesn't accomplish anything. Like, just to get like exactly what you want or what you think you want, and then when you have the things that you think you want because you've sold your soul to the devil, it it turns out to be a horrible disaster. Um, and it's you have to you essentially have to find your own path, your own way, and that's much more difficult than like just trying to wish yourself out of whatever situation you're in. And sure, the comedy will probably be what most people remember, but I think this movie has a great like little message behind it, and is worth to watch um, many times.
All right, folks, there you have it. That's our review of Bedazzled from 2000. Both Robert and I give this a 4. Definitely a movie to watch. If not for the comedy, then for the very delicious Elizabeth Hurley.
Oh, dude.
All right, folks, that brings us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Always,
Right.
dude. What do you want? What are we doing next week? Are we since we're doing Devils in the Detail
Well, I mean,
month,
you never sent me the list,
why don't
so
we do
you didn't send me the
I didn't
list.
send you the list. Okay, I thought I did. We're gonna be I'll resend it to you because I do have it. But we're gonna do
Texan.
Texan. It's a silent film about
Okay.
the devil.
Well, there you have it. Something to look forward to. We'll be reviewing Texan, a silent movie, apparently. So, something to look forward to.
I have it. I got it right here.
Of course you do.
Because I'm a weirdo.
All right, folks. Yeah. If you enjoyed this stream, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circle of Jerks main podcast, old episodes, and nocturnal transmissions, of course, with our movie reviews, as well as Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, formerly Twitter, now X'd, and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.